Welcome to a very, very exciting Vantage Point. This is a series that we've been conducting at Motilal Oswal Wealth to learn from the masters in business as well as investing. I'm Ashish Shanker, Deputy Managing Director at Motilal Oswal Wealth Management. And it's my privilege to welcome all of you, the hundreds of guests who are joining in on the Zoom link, clients and prospects of Motilal Oswal Wealth, the thousands of people joining us live on YouTube, the Penguin readers, as well as guests of Marcellus. It's really a pleasure to welcome all of you. I promise that this will be a very, very exciting evening. And what better day to conduct this other than Teachers' Day in India. So we're going to be learning from the masters themselves today evening. We've got two masters from the investment world, Dr. Mark Mobius and Raamdeo Agarwal, who will be joining us shortly. Dr. Mark Mobius really doesn't need any introduction, but I'll try and attempt that. Whilst he was executive chairman at Templeton, he was responsible for managing $50 billion across emerging markets. He's been doing it for 40 years. He retired from Templeton and set up his own Mobius partnership firm and focuses a lot now on ESG investing. He graduated from Boston University and then he did his PhD from MIT. I have grown up reading a lot of his books, Passport to Profits, a little book on emerging markets, and many others. He's won several accolades. And more importantly for me, and very envious for all of us, he's interacted personally with the great John Templeton and has incorporated a lot of his principles in his investment philosophy. So really look forward to some great learnings from him today evening. Welcome, Dr. Mobius.
Thank you very much for that very nice introduction. Appreciate it.
Thank you. We'll be joined by, Mr. Raamdeo Agarwal has also joined us. Raamdeo ji, can you hear us? Raamdeo ji? Okay, nonetheless, let me do the introduction. He should be, here shortly. So Mr. Raamdeo Agarwal is the co-founder of Motilal Oswal, and he's also the author of the Wealth Creation Studies over the last 2.5 decades, which has led to his unique investment philosophy, QGLP, which is what is followed in our asset management business, where we manage close to about $6 billion. His deep insights in the equity markets have given him the title Wizard of Dalal Street. Like Dr. Mobius, he also has close to 3.5 decades of investing experience in Indian markets. Welcome, Mr. Raamdeo Agarwal to this esteemed panel, and look forward to a lot of learning from him as well today evening. We have our authors of the book Victory Project, 6 Steps to Peak Potential. I have with us today Anupam Gupta. Anupam Gupta is a chartered accountant, has been on the sell side for about 20 years, has been author of many research reports, has co-authored with Saurabh for 2 books. This Victory Project, like Saurabh says, is a culmination of a trilogy of the earlier book, The Unusual Billionaires, as well as the Coffee Can Portfolio. Anupam himself runs a financial planning podcast called Paisa Vaisa. It was voted as the best Asian podcast for business. Welcome, Anupam.
Thanks, sir. Thanks, Ashish.
And then, of course, we've got Saurabh Mukherjea, who's the founder of Marcellus. He has been a celebrated equity strategist for over a decade and a half. Started his career in London and is the author of 4 books, starting from Gurus of Chaos and then the trilogy of books, The Unusual Billionaires, Coffee Can Portfolio, and finally culminating in the Victory Project. So really excited to have both of you here, Saurabh and Anupam, and really look forward to learning from both of you today evening. So without further ado, I will hand it over to Anupam to give us a quick peek into their book Victory Project. After that, we can dig straight into the panel discussion.
Thanks, Ashish. So I won't take much of your time. I mean, I'm surrounded by three generations, literally three generations of investors. Right? You've got Dr. Mobius, Raamdeo ji, and you've got Saurabh. So I'll just try and get out of the way as soon as possible. So, folks, welcome to this webinar. We're going to present to you the results of 2 years of research on the drivers of outsized professional success in highly competitive industries and professions. Incidentally, we featured both Raamdeo ji and Dr. Mobius as part of a book. The book, of course, is The Victory Project. It's out at Amazon. It's on Kindle and it's out on stores wherever you can get them. So I will begin the first half of this presentation and Saurabh will join in for the second half. So let's get started, guys. So here's the thing. India's GDP has tripled in the last 20 years. One of the most standout achievements of any large country, any large democracy in the history of the planet. But yet this prosperity, this boom hasn't really been full of happiness and of success, because as you can see, NPAs in the banking system are up 4 times in the last 10 years. Marriages in metro cities are in trouble. Mental stress has actually become a very big thing. So one of the psychologists that we interviewed for this book, Dr. Sharmila Banwat, actually told us that whoever she spoke to, says that many people that she gets, they can't figure out how to strike a work-life balance. They understand it conceptually, but can't implement it practically. So what exactly is the problem? So some part of this, what we've said, is that at the core of the human mind is the inability to find happiness even after plenty of hard work. So, and some of this is because of wiring of the human mind. What do we mean by wiring? Well, if you look at the picture on the right-hand side, some of you could possibly see a young woman, some of you could see an old woman. I've seen an old woman whenever I see that. So psychologists, cognitive scientists like Nick Chater, Stephen Sloman, and Philip Fernbach are telling us that we suffer from three illusions, right? The first one is the knowledge illusion. We think we know how complex operations work. We can explain, say, how a Reliance in Industries works or an iPhone works, whereas in reality, we probably don't even know how a cycle or a flush, things like that work. Second illusion is we think we can multitask. Actually, we can't. Our brain can do one thing at a time. So there's enough research. But let's take the example of using your cell phone while you're driving, even if it's on the Bluetooth in your dashboard. There's enough research to show that even that can distract your mind. The third illusion is a visual illusion. So when you, for example, when you're reading a page, you think that you can actually see all the words, whereas eye tracking software has shown that at best, you're just focusing on 12 to 14 letters at a time. And as if all this wasn't enough, our memories are fallible. So Nick Chater actually did this fantastic experiment on a group of people and asked them to remember if they can think how a tiger looks, right? Simple tiger, and how the stripes flow from head to tail. Many people got it wrong. I got it wrong, vertically, horizontally, and just look at how beautiful the tiger is. And we thought that we know all of this, but in fact, we don't. So if you're wondering how did we survive so far, one of the biggest reason is our mind is great at finding shortcuts, heuristics. That largely helps us to survive through life. How do we actually thrive? So we give you the simplicity paradigm. This is the core of our research for the last 2 years. It's a simple three-tier structure consisting of core beliefs of specialize, simplify, spiritualize, then specific behaviors of declutter, creativity, and memory, and collaboration. And when you implement these 6 steps, you get the best. You get to see a massive transformation, which can be manifested in simplicity in business and simplicity in investing. So let's get started with the base tier. So specialize, right? Now, we know that specialization works. In fact, this last decade has been the era of the specialist, whether it's Virat Kohli in cricket, whether it's Roger Federer in tennis, Akshay Kumar in movies, Charlie Munger in investment. That's been one of the best, one of the biggest trends for the last decade. Now, but specialization actually goes back all the way to Adam Smith 300 years ago, where he has spoken about it. More popularly in the last 10 years, you would have probably read Malcolm Gladwell's Outliers, where he speaks about 10,000 hours of practice. So the question that most people ask is, how do you really specialize? So we follow the simple, elegant procedure given by Robert Greene in his book Mastery, where he says that at the first step, you find what you innately love with a passion. Second is you find a guru who can mentor you along, use his experience to share it with you. And third, once you've learned all this, the final step is merging the rational self and the emotional self. So we see examples of this mastery everywhere. Charlie Munger in investing, but one of the biggest manifestations that we use as an example is Raamdeo, who's actually part of this panel, part of part of a book also. And as he'll tell you also, very early on, Raamdeo ji knew two things. One, that he will, that he wants to get rich, and second, rich via investing. So this is someone who, at a very early age, I'm talking about the 80s and 90s, could sit in a restaurant where he's having his, his breakfast, idli, dosa, whatever, and he could actually visualize the number of customers who are coming into the restaurant, create a balance sheet, P&L, and tell it to the owner. So from there, he went on and on honing that skill. He found Sanjay Bhattacharya as a mentor, and eventually he fused that knowledge to then take large bets on highly successful companies, and that, as we all know now, has turned out really well for himself. Let's go to the next level. Simplify. Now, the thing is that we are all consumers of simplicity in some way or the other, whether it's the SIP that most of us, quite a few of us have these days, or the iPhone as a phone, or the McDonald's burger, or the index fund in the US. Now, all of these deliver very simple and profound experience to us, but all of them have been built over a long period of time. So delivering simplicity actually sounds easy, but creating it is a very complex process. So how do you do it? So we talk about two principles: simplification to process and simplification to principles. So simplification to process through habit. We look at Krishna Devaraya, who was a dominant ruler of the Deccan, and by far the mightiest ruler that the Deccan has seen some 500 years ago. His routine, as captured by Manu Pillai in his book, was every morning he drank a 3/4 of sesame oil, after which he anoints himself all over with the same oil. He would then work out with great weights, exercise with a sword, and wrestle with one of his wrestlers till he sweats out the oil. And then he would go house riding before daybreak. And finally, when it was time to appear in court, he would appear in a tunic, a brocade cap, and seat himself on the diamond thrones. Now, obviously, you and I might not be able to be an Indian Maharaj, but there's now extensive research that shows that creating a routine is one of the most powerful keys to living a successful life. And I'm sure that, it's been 6 months of this lockdown. Last few months have been unlocked. I'm sure that all of you have figured out a routine to sort your days, even in these extremely difficult times. So that simplicity through process, and simplicity through principles is an slightly advanced level of simplicity. And one of the examples that I can think of is Saurabh and his colleagues at Marcellus. And they focus only on companies that deliver two very simple financial parameters. One is sales growth of 10% year after year, not CAGR, and ROCE of 15% year after year. And they don't look at companies outside of that. So whether it's the iPhone or McDonald's burger or the SIP or the index fund, once these products hit the market with runaway success, everyone says it's easy to make. But simplification through principle, simplicity itself, like the Apple ad used to go, is the ultimate sophistication. So that's it from me, folks. For the rest of this presentation, I'll hand over to Saurabh. Saurabh, all yours.
Thank you, Anupam, and a big thank you to Motilal Oswal as well for hosting us today. So, folks, Anupam took you through the first two layers of the foundational layer of the simplicity paradigm. We spoke about specialization, we spoke about simplicity. I'll finish off the foundational layer by focusing on spirituality. Now, it's easy to be cynical about spirituality, and I too was a cynic until I became a professional investor a few years ago. That's when I realized that there are no future facts which can help my colleagues at Marcellus and myself look after the monies of thousands of people. Spirituality, I realized, is the bridge between our abilities and applying their ability to the world around us. So let me give you quick examples. I don't know for certain what will happen on Monday when the market opens, right? But rather than staying up all night and fretting about my lack of knowledge of the future, I need to control my mind, my emotions, and stay as rational as possible. If I can get better at this, I'll be able to deal with greed and fear far better than I can today. Ray Dalio is the most famous investor who I have seen has made this point very, very clearly. In his book, The Principles, he says, the most valuable habit I've acquired is using pain to trigger quality reflections. If you can acquire this habit, you'll learn what causes you pain and what you can do about it. And it'll have an enormous effect on your effectiveness. Like Dalio, there's another American fund manager we interviewed for this book. His name is Jason Voss. Jason is a big believer that spirituality helps you make better investment decisions. He told us that meditation not only helps in relaxation and improving focus, it also helps you understand that your family, your colleagues, and your friends' happiness is actually far more important than yours. In simple terms, Jason says, meditation helps you Meditation helps you heal your mind and helps you perform better for longer. We'll quote from his book, The Intuitive Investor. He says, you need to find tools and techniques that exalt your consciousness. Once you discover what makes you and your talents unique, and that's only found through spirituality, Jason believes, then all of a sudden magic happens, right? So that's the foundational layer of the simplicities paradigm. Specialize, simplify, spiritualize. Let's move to the more advanced skills in the simplicity paradigm, and we start with clutter reduction, right? And the reason for this is very simple. Even if you meditate every day, if you can't manage your tasks and your projects, right, your system goes back into stress due to cognitive overload. So you have to make a conscious attempt to focus on what is really important. But the question then is, well, how do we know what is really important? When we met Professor Sanjay Bakshi, the famous professor at MDI in Delhi, managing partner at Value Quest Capital, when we met him in Delhi in Lodi Hotel to interview him for the book, the meeting lasted for over 2 hours. Professor Bakshi is a big believer in the idea of intense focus and cutting off all distractions to spend quality time on a single idea. He showed us his phone has a blank home screen. It has no notifications. Throughout his meeting, his phone did not beep up or light up or ring even once. In the 2 hours he gave us, I think I got some of the clearest insights into fierce focus that I have seen in my career. Chapter 3 of the book has those insights. Cal Newport has written 2 outstanding books on this subject of focus, and studying the lives of business legends in India like Harsh Mariwala has shown us that there is actually a step-by-step process to reducing mental clutter. The process begins by being very clear about your goals, right? Now this sounds simple. This sounds simple to say that that my goals are X, Y, Z. But actually creating clear goals is not as easy as it sounds. I'll give an example. A friend of mine in California, a fellow fund manager, he gave me the following goals that he has last year. He says, I focus on very few things: my family, my investors, and my closest colleagues. I deprioritize everything else. Once you have clarity on your goals, you then move towards building prioritized checklists to help you with the execution. And the legendary book here is written by an Indian surgeon in America, Atul Gawande. The book is called The Checklist Manifesto. Now, why are we so focused on clutter reduction? Because there's a lot of research which shows that memory plays a key role in creativity. We'll come back to this in a minute. The more cluttered your mind, the less creative you will be. Right? And therefore, if you declutter your mind, you get full value for money for your memories, so to speak. Right? That's why clutter reduction is a massive driver of creativity. And now we come to creativity, the sort of engine room of outsized success. And the reason is simple, right? In a highly competitive free market economy, even if your ideas are only marginally better than those of your peers, you will be in high demand, right? And what better example than the two giants of investing we have on this Zoom call today. Mark Mobius in the context of broader emerging markets, Raamdeo Agarwal in the context of Indian equity investing. Both of these gents articulated an idea of investing which captured the imagination of a generation, which turned out to be highly effective for extended periods of time, and it made them outsized success as investors. So the question then becomes, well, what is original thought? How can we get original thought? How can each of us become original thinkers? Psychologists like Adam Grant, Doris Wallace, and Howard Gruber have shown over the last 20 years that creativity and the recipe for creativity amongst creative giants is actually surprisingly similar. And this recipe contains 5 things. The first element is read widely. So Charlie Munger famously said that he's never met a smart person who does not read widely. Every expert we interviewed for the book, including the 2 giants who are on the Zoom webinar today, both of them, every expert is a voracious reader. For my part, I ask everyone I meet what their favorite books are. I then curate that list and spend most of my free time reading. The second driver for creativity seems to be a variety of experiences, right? Explore the world, travel extensively, experience a variety of cultures. Now, I'll quote from the book. I'll quote from the section we've done on Mark Mobius in the book. Mark says, travel opens up your mind. You have to open your mind because you're being confronted with different people, different images, different environments, and you're not going to survive very long if you're closed-minded. You have to be willing to learn, he explained. Dr. Mobius traveled to Japan before. This is in the 50s, 60s, before it became an economic giant. He traveled there as a scholarship student. And he told us that I was staying with a family in Kyoto, and their way of life and their outlook was so different that it was quite a big lesson for me, right? So driver number, reading, traveling, third driver, memory enhancement. People who develop their memories to a very high level have basically learned how to focus their attention on essential information. There are specific memory enhancing techniques which are worth learning. You can find them easily on the net. We've given some in the book. Fourth driver, work hard, produce lots of ideas, right? It is no surprise that almost all creative giants have a very high output rate. The Oscar-winning film director Satyajit Ray directed 36 movies in a 35-year career, went on to become an Academy Award winner. I recently learned that Woody Allen has directed the best part of, I think, 35 movies in a 37-year career. 22 out of his 35 movies have been nominated for an Oscar, right? And the final driver of creativity, make friends, jam with other creatives, find allies, find people who can give you emotional support, intellectual support, and practical help. Now, we see many of these qualities of a creative giant in Sanjeev Bikhchandani. He's defied almost every convention you can imagine to build InfoEdge. Inside InfoEdge sits Naukri.com, the Indian job classifieds website, which is almost a monopoly in that industry. Sanjeev is an extremely iconoclastic original thinker, and the section we've written on him will hopefully give you a better case study on this subject. And the final driver of outsized success, the final driver, arguably the critical driver, collaboration. No matter how creative you are, if you want to change the world with your ideas, you need to learn how to influence other people, win their support and their collaboration in favor of your cause. And in fact, as we studied the subject deeper, we realized that the greatest teams are teams of rivals, i.e. diverse teams of people who might not always agree with each other, but who work together towards a common goal. The most famous example is Abraham Lincoln and his Civil War cabinet, right? The cabinet which sort of picked up America from the ashes of the Civil War, right? Back home in India, Mahatma Gandhi and India's first post-independence cabinet was very similar. Gandhiji brought people like Sardar Patel and Baba Saheb Ambedkar into that cabinet. They were fierce political rivals, but he united them in the common cause of building the constitution, which governs our lives to this day. This collaborative spirit, the collaboration aspect, right? You can see this in the great investment partnerships of Arena, whether it is Warren Buffett and Charlie Munger, whether it is Motilal Oswal and Raamdeo Agarwal, whether it is George Soros and Stanley Druckenmiller. You can see, right, why partnerships are so effective. You're interlocking two people, or you're interlocking a group of people with complementary skills, and if you obviously lock them together, the whole is greater than the sum of the parts, right? And the most striking example I find in India of this is Amul. Amul basically did not exist in 1947. It was a nothing entity. Today, it is a company, it's a cooperative, 3 times the size of Nestle India, right? Just imagine Nestle India is a $22 billion market cap company. Amul is 3 times the size of that. It is basically collaboration on an epic scale. The Gujarat Cooperative Milk Marketing Federation procures 2.3 crore liters of milk every day from 19,000 village milk cooperatives and basically 36 lakh milk producers at the ground level, right? This is happening daily, and the results are what you and I have on our dining tables, right? This whole subject of collaboration is of immense interest to us, and one of the most fascinating aspects of collaboration in India is we have numerous examples of collaboration in India without a great leader. And the best example is the Marwadi community in India, right? We have only 9 million Marwadis in our country. Arguably, they're the single largest powerful economic force in the country with just 9 million people. In the book, in the Victory Project, we describe how the small community has achieved outsized impact by collaborating in a seamless fashion without an elected or a chosen leader. So let's pull it all together into investment implications. What does it mean for us, right? As we try to make a living in the stock market. What we realized is simple ideas deliver remarkable results if implemented by a motivated and a committed group of individuals. This collaborative aspect of implementation by a committed group of individuals actually deserves more focus. Creative collaboration in investing actually deserves more focus. We have narrated in the book my personal experiences of meeting thinkers over dinner, over drinks, thinkers whose ideas have actually fueled how my career is and how Marcellus Investment Managers has worked. So for example, I first learned about Rob Kirby's 30-year-old paper on coffee can investing over dinner with Sanjay Bhattacharya, the same gentleman who's been such a friend and ally of Raamdeo Agarwalji. Sanjay told me in 2014 to go away, read the paper, and the paper changed my life. The idea behind Marcellus's Little Champs portfolio actually came from reading the work of a German management consultant called Hermann Simon. His book is called Hidden Champions of the 21st Century. And then speaking to Mark over the last couple of years has given us several practical ideas as to how we can help smaller Indian companies, these little champs, get better, right? And we've described in the book the power of simple ideas. Anupam spoke about it. Something as simple as John Bogle's idea of index funds. Vanguard now manages $6 trillion. In a recent SEC filing, I read that the current generation of Vanguard staff alone own $120 million of Vanguard units, right? So that's the crux of the simplicity paradigm. Two layers: a basic layer built around a specialized, simplified spirituality, and a more advanced layer around clutter reduction, collaboration, and creativity, right? And with that, I think we bring the trilogy to an end. Ashish very kindly spoke about the trilogy. Over the past decade, we've tried to understand the drivers of greatness. We began with corporate greatness in The Unusual Billionaires. We profiled a unique set of companies that have delivered outstanding financial performance year after year. We translated these guardrails and we translated them into a simple portfolio construct in my 2018 book, Coffee Can Investing, where we showed that a very simply constructed portfolio can unlock significant financial gains for millions of people. And now we finished this trilogy with an overarching philosophy to live great lives. In spite of everything that's happened in the last 6 months, we believe that in this great nation, one can live a fulfilling life by following the simplicity paradigm. Thank you very much to Motilal Oswal for hosting us, and thank you to Mark and to Raamdeo Agarwalji for agreeing to feature in our book. Thank you, folks, and back to you, Ashish.
Yeah, thanks a lot, Saurabh. That was a nice, crisp summary of your book. I must say that, I really enjoyed reading the book thoroughly. So Raamdeo ji has joined us. I think he was having a little bit of challenge with his audio. So let me go to him first. Welcome, Raamdeo ji.
Hi, Ashish. Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you crisp and clear.
Okay.
So, Raamdeo ji, you're featured in Saurabh's book, The Victory Project, and you are an embodiment of focus, which is one of the key qualities that Saurabh says is required to achieve outsized success. And right, I mean, I've heard many stories right from your CA days how you were focused on getting the degree, and then how the stock market journey started. Could you tell us a little bit about that moment when you fell in love with the stock markets?
Wow. So let me just say hello to Mark. I think I'm directly talking to him for the first time. So Mark, hi, and it'll be nice to hear from you on this forum. So coming back to Ashish, this I was actually impacted by the fictions, the books which are written on the financial fiction at that point of time. So I was a voracious reader. I think that is the first thing. Even as a kid, as a child, I used to go to the public library and used to borrow books and used to read. Of course, they were the story books. And later on, somehow I got hooked on to making money. I mean, making big money. And the fictions based on that. So I remember in early 80s, there used to be an author called Paul Edman. And he wrote a book called $1 Billion Sure Thing and Silver Bear, Zero Coupon Bonds. I mean, these were the titles of the book, and we don't get to hear about that author anymore. But those are the books which shaped my mind at that point of time as a, it is possible to make a large amount of money, even if you're a simple guy or you're a financial strategist. So my ambition grew. I mean, I started fantasizing myself of making money, and who doesn't want to make money? So, when I was doing my chartered accountancy, I ended up doing audits of the companies whose shares were listed, like Premier Automobiles, Century Textile Mills, and Century Textile Mills at that point of time was kind of Reliance of today, very famous at that point of time, day in day out on the curb, and speculation used to be massive out there. So that gave a bedrock of getting excited about the stock market, and then CA degree allowed me to know a little bit of basics of stock market. And my brother gave me the seed money. on which I could try without any fear. What is most important is to start with your own money or your brother's money or somebody's money who is willing to lose it all at the beginning, and that's how my journey started. And the very first stock I bought, it tripled in 6 months' time. I said, I have something in me which is going to take me forward. And then the learning process started, intense learning process started. And then I completed my CA. And what I realized later on is that when the passion comes with the profession, when the passion becomes profession, I think you are the blessed guy. Then you never work in life. You never work in life. Whether it is 7 days a week or 24/7, you never work. Whether it is a good time, whether it is bad time. Markets are up 1,000 points or down 1,000 points. You'll always find me smiling or well composed. So it just doesn't affect me, and I remain very calm. I enjoy challenges of non-performance as well as performance. Of course, we celebrate performance, but when there's non-performance, that also becomes a challenge. Okay, how do we turn around? How do we read into it? But we never give up. So that's the beauty of focus, passion, and your profession. So I would think that I became lucky to have my profession as a passion as a profession, and later on, success builds success. We bought membership after 4 5 years, and you should also be lucky to find a partner like Muti, Motilal. How different we are, and yet, he's a junior to me. He's a much better chartered accountant, but he can do things I cannot even think of doing. You know that. He can do things I cannot do it. Probably he can do what I can do, but I definitely cannot do what he can do. So that's how these two things came together. And we never discussed who will do what. It was just a natural distribution of work portfolio. Even today it is like that. And then then luck also comes your way, in the sense that for a success, when you open up shop in 87 with zero capital, two bosses, and you open a shop and you have a leap of faith and confidence, overconfidence. Actually, you start with overconfidence. You don't, nothing, because there's downside is zero. So upside is only immense, whatever you make, it is all gain. There's nothing to lose. So, and you don't have capital, you don't have anything to lose. So you started in 87, 4 5 years, we worked very hard. And then when you become member, and suddenly what happens is that a bull run starts in the market. I think for any successful career in a stock market, you need a one bull run on your side. And Harshad Mehta bull run was the maddest possible bull run in 91, 92. And that laid the foundation, because in 18 months, we made 30 crores. And that 30 crores is the foundation. I think at least one good thing happened out of Harshad Mehta was the creation of Motilal Oswal. So that's how, these things work. And I don't know how to interpret. I think Saurabh is a guy who can interpret various components of it, but I'm just telling you what really happened. And of course, you also need a guru, a Sadguru like Sanjay Bhattacharya. So he was always on my side from 85 itself. Even before I met Moti, I met Bhattacharya. I think he has always been a huge backbone for me.
Right. One more thing I remember, Raamdeo ji, is, and Saurabh mentioned it in his book as well. You always have worked on these mental models and frameworks, which eventually led to your QGLP philosophy. One of the mental models I remember is, whenever we go anywhere to a restaurant, I think it's always running in your mind how the economics of the restaurant is working. So can you talk us through that and how it finally helped you interpret companies?
I think that's what I think this Marwari genes might be one of the things that, it got into me, how somebody makes money. What is the recipe for making money, and how the economics work. And I have seen such, it's very magical who makes money and who doesn't make money. Most complicated airline goes bankrupt one after other. And a simple, vada pav maker or a small, sandwich maker, he mints money. So, figuring out who is going to make money, that's a mystical thing. And in every country, different guys make money. Like two-wheeler companies make money, tons of money in India. Paint company makes these are crazy things. It doesn't happen that a paint company is a $1 trillion company or $2 trillion company, or the top 10 companies of India, or there are 3 or 4. Anybody who's in two-wheeler, he's making money. I think this is only in India. Nowhere else in the world they make money. So understanding in what country, who will make money, I mean, which businesses will make money, and of course, which managements are going to make money. So this amalgam of good business and good management in a country, and the situation is such that you make money. So it is very important that where, I mean, how money is made in a, so it's every single spot where money is being made is a matter of research for me.
Dr. Mobius, coming to you, you had a fascinating journey yourself. I mean, you've done your BA in literature, and then you met the great Sir John Templeton, and then went on to managing money across emerging markets. Could you tell us a little bit about how you found your passion?
It's really interesting what we just heard Raamdeo saying, that you have to love what you do and it's not work. And that's exactly the situation I'm in and have been all my career. I love what I do and I enjoy it, and therefore you tend to be better at what you love to do. And the way I got involved in this whole process was when I was at MIT. My thesis was on communication satellites. And at that time, if you go back in history, you know, President Kennedy was interested in reforming the telecoms industry in America. At that time, it was controlled by the Bell system. There was only one telephone company for the whole country. Of course, there were different Bell groups, but it was all part of a big conglomerate. And AT&T, of course, there is still an AT&T, but at that time there was only one AT&T. But he was interested in freeing up the industry and breaking it up so that other people could enter. At the same time, you had Howard Hughes, the famous, if you remember the film The Aviator.
Yes.
He was not only interested in aviation, he was also interested in space. And they were developing a simultaneous satellite where you could place 3 satellites up 24,000 miles in the air, and it would appear to be moving at the same speed as the Earth. So you could cover the Earth with 3 satellites. So anyway, I did my thesis on that and on the politics. What were the politics? I went to the Brookings Institution in Washington. I visited the White House to find out what they were doing. By the way, the White House, when you say visit the White House, it doesn't mean the president's room, but it means all the underground rooms that are beneath the White House. And I visited a number of the people there. And they passed the ComSat legislation, which formed the ComSat Corporation, the Communication Satellite Corporation. And I decided to invest in the ComSat Corporation because I was convinced that this was a good idea. And that's where I got sort of the bug, because I made some money on the stock purchase, and that interested me in going further into this whole field. Of course, before that, and we talk about creativity, I was involved in the arts rather than science. I was studying fine arts at Boston University and communications generally, public communications and so forth. And so these 2 ideas merged in this idea of investing in the stock market. So that's the reason why, even to this day, I believe understanding people and understanding their emotions is just as important as understanding the numbers.
Right. And Dr. Mobius, there's one thing in the book which I found very fascinating, where you say that machines are going to do most of the mundane tasks. I mean, some of the complex tasks are now being taken over by machines, whether it is data analytics or even AI is now, you know, there is a lot of AI in many fields. And you say that we should be visiting museums, studying arts and focusing on our creativity. Could you elaborate a little bit on that? Because that will mean, you know, the future.
Yes, I believe very strongly that we've got to move more and more to develop creativity. For that reason, I established a scholarship at my high school, which is in Long Island, New York, for 2 scholarships. One for arts, whether it be music, composition, drawing, painting, arts in general. And the second scholarship is for entrepreneurial activity, creating companies. So I believe that at the end of the day, the education of the future must be focused on creativity, for the simple reason that machines can do a lot of the mundane tasks, but the real advances will be made with creative people, people who are thinking off the borders of science, going into the next step and thinking with an open mind. So I believe that creativity, as has been pointed out by you in the book, creativity is a very key part of the future of mankind generally.
Right. Dr. Mobius, we've got 2 investment masters on the show, and I cannot but ask, you've had a 40-year journey in emerging markets, and I'm sure you've been through many crises, and you have the unique distinction of looking at India from a global lens. So just wanted to get a sense from you as to how you're looking at India, this particular crisis, and how optimistic are you on emerging markets, and if you can share some thoughts on India.
Well, first of all, if you know me, you know that I'm always optimistic. So when there is a crisis, I become even more optimistic because I see opportunities. When the stock markets crash, that's an opportunity, is in my view, and I become very optimistic. In the case of India, as you know, I've been very, very interested in India for a long time. I've been investing in India for now 20 years. And I've always been optimistic because I felt that one of the very interesting features of the Indian culture is a very varied, creative aspect, which you don't find very easily in other countries in the world. And that's reflected in the religion, in the general behavior of people. And that, I think, is a very, very strong aspect that will enable Indians to do very well in the future. If you look at Indians working here in the UK, in America, in Europe generally, you find that invariably they're quite successful, provided that, of course, that they apply themselves. So there is an inherent feature of the Indian culture, which I think is very exciting. And as you know, in our new funds, we have quite a lot. In fact, India is now the largest allocation in the fund, partly because of our investments, but also because of the rise in the market recently. India has really done very well. So we're very happy to be investing in India.
Right. Any themes that you feel, Dr. Mobius, look exciting to you within India? Any spots that you like personally?
Well, first of all, the whole area of medicine, the medical field, whether it be pharmaceuticals, whether it be testing, that's one area where we're invested now. In any aspect of the medical field, I would say it's going to be very exciting for India. As you know, India is the largest, if not one of the largest producers of vaccines in the world. But there are many, many other areas where India is going to excel going forward. The other area I'm particularly interested in is infrastructure, because I believe that India has a long way to go in terms of improving infrastructure. And now there's a realization, not only in government, but in the general society, that infrastructure must be improved and rapidly. So anything related to the supplies, related to infrastructure is something that we're interested in.
Right. Interesting. Coming back to Raamdeo ji, sir, you have many frameworks to look at spots of value. So over the next, let's say 5 or 10 years, which are the most powerful frameworks according to you, and which are the spots that you personally believe in will do extremely well or become very big? Sir, I think you're on mute. You'll have to unmute. Yeah.
Yeah. So Ashish, you should be asking bulk of the question from Dr. Mobius. Okay. Uh, as far as my frameworks are concerned, it's all kind of old ones, and one which has delivered the maximum value in India is the concept of value migration. And it can be in any field. I mean, whether it is in tech, whether it is in pharmacy, whether it is in banking, or I would say uh, telecom right now. Again, one more round of value migration. So, this gentleman called Adrian Sloveski of Harvard, he wrote a book called Value Migration in way back in 94, 95. And a friend of mine who gifted me, and somehow this book has not become famous. So this is to our advantage. It has not become as famous as Michael Porter's book, but I find this to be, of course, Michael Porter is very powerful for me, but Edwin Sloveski is a god. This concept of value migration. So I think the values keep migrating, like Tesla. Tesla is very fascinating story of value migration from IC engine to electric engine, and it is going with the world's biggest value migration by value. I mean, and very consolidated also. Like housing is also very large industry, and car is very large industry, but housing is spread all over. Whereas car is very concentrated. There are only 6, 7, 10 very large car manufacturers in the world. 100 million cars are being sold. When 100 million cars, even 10 million cars are being produced by Tesla at some point of time, I think the market can cross. I mean, now trillion has become the new billion. So it can become, kind of a potentially a trillion, $2 trillion company if it remains as dominant as it is. And Elon Musk is one guy who is 1 to 100, it is only Elon Musk. So that kind of passion and competence you can see very rarely. So value migration is very powerful theme, and on that theme, private sector banks, because banking is challenged right now. It is most hurt. But what it will do is that the banks which were struggling or which are not of the right size at the time of COVID, I think they will have tough time to raise capital. So there'll be very few companies or banks or NBFCs which will have adequate capital and underwriting capability. So I would think that when you go from 3 trillion to 6 trillion, your credit intensity is double. So right now, if you need 150 trillion rupees of credit for going from 3 to 6, you need 300 trillion rupees of credit. Now, where are the institutions who will underwrite? So our institution, 60% is public sector, which doesn't have capital, which doesn't have competence, which doesn't have wherewithal. So government of India has to give the capital. So I don't know whether they'll give or not, because government itself is struggling with the tax revenues. So my sense is the biggest opportunity will come in financials again, which was which is biggest source of trouble right now. So, but the ones which have conducted themselves well before COVID, pre-COVID, are the guys who are going to win big time, disproportionately large in the post-COVID era. I mean, starting now. So that is one theme. This thing. Second, non-lending financial institutions like insurance, private sector insurance. So insurance, we are just about to started. This country is completely uninsured. It's a very, very large opportunity, and it's a very considered opportunity. In banking, you can enter very quickly, but this is a completely entry barrier business, insurance. And hence it is because the break-evens are very high, and you need brand equity also. Who is going to get insured for next 50 years from Motilal Oswal or some other name? They want SBI, LIC, SDFC, those kind of big brands are required. And the brands are not made overnight. So basically, these guys, they have tremendous advantage. And since it is not lending business, it's only one way money coming in. So I call them asset managers without performance obligation. So you keep dumping money on them, and they do whatever they want, and nobody's asking question. Ashish Shankar is not asking how well you are done. So this cannot. I mean, and this is better than AMC itself, and it is India. You just about started insuring. So I don't know how big is the going to balance sheet. Maybe it will be half a trillion, quarter trillion kind of thing. I mean, it's just about available at 1 trillion and things like that. So I think that's a very large opportunity out there. Then you come to telecom. I mean, from the world is working on telecom on the backbone of telecom, and though it is a utility, but the but any time you have the power of monopoly, even on utility, then of course government agencies can curb your profitability. But right now we have just about gone to that consolidated position where there are 2, 3 players who are going to dominate the scene. And India is I mean, you need telecom not by the money. I mean, not by your richness. You need by number of people. I mean, when we have 1.3 billion people, you need as much more telecom compared to people who have $60,000 per capita or $100,000 per capita. They don't need more telecom. They need, I mean, they'll pay whatever, $30, $40 per person. I mean, even Bill Gates would be paying only $50 per month telecom bill. So I think it is all by the masses. So I think there the opportunity is very large, and we know where to bet. Or I mean, and the story is just about to start. That is one. Then I think value migrating from the conventional businesses to online businesses, I think, which is the biggest advent right now COVID has done. So unfortunately, we don't have many listed companies in the online space. Maybe you have to go to, and they are very expensive worldwide. And it scares me to say get into. But I think opportunities will come where internet per se is enabling the business models to work in a much better way. Internet is creating entry barriers for a lot of conventional guys. Like we are amongst the first one to have mutilaoswal.com, but we are not the leaders in the online broking. I mean, Zerodha is leader of that. So I think in a small way, you'll find a lot of companies, businesses, which are significantly benefited by their digital strategy. And we have to find in the conventional businesses, which are the ones who are exploiting digital capability. And this country's digital capability is 100 years ahead of their physical capability. So I think we'll give birth to a lot of global companies from here, maybe in next 5, 6 years. And so there are a lot of these value migration opportunities are there, which are coming up, which gives you growth, unprecedented growth, because your business model could be catering to entire India or entire world. So those are kind of possibilities. So I think, I mean, I keep developing something other on these lines. So financial services is one of the large ones. And then we have other consumer franchises where you find growth and what you call growth and consolidation. Growth and so that's where the magic happens. When you have growth and consolidation, you end up making a lot of money in the future. That's been my experience. But I mean, recent times have been quite challenging.
Right. Thanks, Raamdeo ji. Dr. Mobius, we keep getting queries in India now from our clients to invest overseas, especially US, because US has been one of the best performing markets over the last decade. And some of the stocks in NASDAQ have become giants in terms of market capitalization. You've, of course, seen many cycles in your career. So what is your sense? What would be your advice at this juncture? Because there is a lot of money printing happening as well in the US.
Well, the beauty of the US market, as you know, is that companies listed in the US are very often international companies. In fact, we found that some of these companies could be categorized as emerging market companies because over 50% of their earnings are in emerging markets. So the US market, because of size and liquidity, is a wonderful place to invest. And it's a great opportunity for any investor to pick and choose. But I would warn that they not buy the market in general. In other words, buy an index fund and so forth, because the vicissitudes of the presidential campaign or COVID or whatever will affect the overall market, but individual companies will do quite well and better than the market in general. So I would say the US market is a great international market, but they should not limit themselves only to the US. Here in London, you find great opportunities for international companies. And of course, as you know, I believe in emerging markets. So it's important for them to have exposure to India, to China, to South Africa, to Brazil, to all of these markets, because in each of these markets, you're going to find some incredible companies. And by the way, many of the emerging market companies have now become international companies. Of course, the best example of that are some of the Chinese internet-related technology companies, but you'll find that in Taiwan and Korea and so forth. So it's a matter of picking and choosing, but I would say, generally speaking, it's a good idea to invest in companies that have exposure internationally rather than just to one country.
Right. Saurabh, any thoughts from your side, Saurabh, Anupam? After that, we can go on to Q&A because there are a lot of questions from the audience. So, I know.
So look, I think now that the legends have spoken, I don't think there's that much I can add on the investing front. I think there's lots for us to learn from what Mark said and what Raamdeo ji said. I think the financial services opportunity Raamdeo ji spoke about, we're looking forward to that. We've built a whole portfolio around that. The smaller Indian companies, the Indian entrepreneurial spirit that Mark spoke about, we're tapping into that through a small cap portfolio. So I've been saying since early March that we are in the beginning of a three-year economic recovery in India. India inevitably booms after a US recession. India has never boomed without a recession in America. You floor the oil price, you take down your 10-year bond yields by 300 bips, and within 12 months, the Indian economy takes off. Cheap oil and cheap money is the only things which fire the Indian economy up. We've had that in the early 80s. We had that in the early 90s. We had that in the early noughties, and we have it finally for the fifth time in 40 years. So next 3 years, I think will be a very exciting time for us.
Right. Anupam, any questions to Dr. Mobius or Raamdeo ji?
No, yeah, not. I think my question would only be for both because they've seen this generation of investing in India. So, Dr. Mobius, how's it been for you so far? You've seen India evolve over this really long period of time. And where do you think we are going? And the same thing for Raamdeo ji, because Raamdeo ji began when all we had was an annual report. There was nothing else to invest. Annual report dekh ke aapko paisa lagana hai ya nahi lagana hai. That's it. And now we've come to a point where promoter ko janna chahiye, ye hona chahiye. There was a time where there was no concept of quarterly results. Twice in a year you would get a newspaper ad of half yearly result, and there was no mobile, there was no internet, nothing. So from both the investors, if I can just get a sense of how they've seen India evolve and where do they see us going forward, that'll be it for me. Thank you so much.
Right.
Maybe I can start by saying that I remember being in Bombay on the Bombay Stock Exchange. Was at an open end. It was open end. In other words, not only could we trade in anything, but the air was open. It was a sort of open air and open end market. And in those days, if you remember, it was all physical delivery of certificates, stock certificates. So I saw these men with bamboo poles carrying these certificates with paper flying all over the place. Now you can imagine where we are now with computerized trading, with book entry using computers and so forth. There's been a tremendous improvement. And of course, the National Stock Exchange was formed in competition with the Bombay Stock Exchange. So all these have been incredible giant leaps of improvement in India in terms of the trading. And then, of course, the other thing is that the number of stocks added to the list of traded stocks has been incredible over the years. But probably the most significant is the development of software, generally the software industry, which now has become a global industry for India, as you know. Very successful companies doing all kinds of consulting and software on a global basis. That to me has been an incredible development.
Right. Raamdeo ji?
Yeah, everything has changed. When you think about 85, 87, I mean, it was a bucket shop, completely primitive. And I used to sit in the broker's room. Actually, the way I started was that there is a gentleman called Kisan Ratilal Chowksi, KR Chowksi. So there in that shop, I mean, it was an investing shop basically. So a lot of balance sheet used to come at about 11 o'clock. The postman used to bring all the balance sheet there about 11 o'clock. So we used to go there, take a cup of tea, and you used to read the balance sheet. And by sorting the balance sheet, we used to say, sir, this is a good balance sheet. This is the one to invest, because we didn't have money to invest. So we used to give free advice to everybody by reading the balance sheet. So reading the balance sheet itself was a huge competitive edge. And I used to maintain my own through 250 companies balance sheet physically. and there are a whole lot of single shares lying because of that particular thing. So I mean, you imagine today you can get free of cost all 4,000 balance sheets in any of the site, and with so many analytics and database and everything. So I think life has changed completely in the sense that you don't have any information advantage. If at all you have any advantage, little bit, because of this quarterly results, and then con call, and then management interaction, and then analyst meet. I don't think anything is left. Okay, so nothing is left. So at best, you have the behavioral advantage. I mean, like what doctor is saying, that he becomes more bullish when the market is crashes. I mean, when market crashes, I become more bearish. He becomes more bullish. So that's the difference. I mean, when I'm selling, he buys. So those are the things where behavioral advantage somebody has, or somebody has analytical advantage in the sense that you can see things in the prism with the prism of whatever framework you have. I think that's my sense is I'm still not that good in behavior. That's why I remain 100% invested. I don't time the market. I said I can't time the market, so I remain 100% invested. So I may have a bearish stock, but my portfolio will be 100% invested. So I'm a perma bull in the marketplace. I have seen this market going up by 100 times. When I started my career, the BSE Sensex was about 350, 360. Today it is 35, 36,000 ex dividend. If you do the dividend come dividend, it is more like 60,000. So it is more than 125, 130 times in my lifetime. So I don't have guts to go short against this market. And my sense is today, and I think I would ask Dr. Saab about this particular thing. This is for the first time India has got more than $500 billion of forex reserve. Foreign exchange reserve today we are third largest in the world, and this is a event. I mean, history making kind of history defining moment for India. That we have the oil price crashing, we have trade surplus, and on top of it, every week $3 to $4 billion reserve is accruing, and we have reached to 541 billion as of last Friday. And I think next Friday we'll open at about 550. So what I'm saying is that now RBI is fighting to support dollar, not rupee. So it's a very different change of time. World is printing money. We are not printing money. World is sending dollars out here. What, I mean, how to think about it? Because it's a country where you have the youngest population, you have the lowest per capita income, you have the best prepared digital mindset. Then you have the stable government, very stable government, courageous government. And then you have now the low oil prices and $500 billion of reserve. I mean, I can't find better playground or better play than India, and it is trading at 60% to GDP, market cap to GDP right now. So everything is all set there for all in equity. But I don't know. I mean, I get scared when I see the market screen every day. So I would take views of. I would ask Dr. Mobius what is his thought process. I mean, is he feeling is he feeling as bullish about prospects of India in next 3, 4, 5 years? Because what I have seen is that when you are like in 2003, I was thinking we are in the wrong business, and after 15 years, we incurred loss for 2 months. It was so bad in 2002-3, and then it laid the foundation for the biggest bull run we ever had, 2003 to 2007. I mean, it's a global bull run. So what I'm saying is this pandemic has set, I mean, has set a bottom for a massive bull run. At least India is going to have in the next 5, 6 years. So I would urge Dr. Mobius to comment on this India's current economic situation and what I mean. Does he read like that?
I agree with everything you say. I completely agree with all the points you've made. I'm very, very optimistic about the future for India. And as you pointed out, you've got a young population, you've got tremendous creativity, you've got a very free market, and that is all these elements are the ingredients for an incredible recipe for growth for the country. So I'm very optimistic about what's going to be happening going forward, particularly now with the technical revolution that we're seeing, the software revolution, which is bringing information and the communication abilities to the smallest village in the country. This is having an incredible impact to improve the lives of people around the world, particularly in India. And of course, productivity is going to go through the roof going forward, which is why I have a book coming out where I state that we are now in a deflationary environment. And I believe this is going to be very, very positive for India.
Dr. Mobius, one of the things that we all know about you is you travel very extensively, right? But yet you manage to remain so focused and keep things simple. How do you manage to do that, sir? At your, I mean, with your kind of travel schedule?
Well, I think I've over the years I've found that again, as pointed out in the book, simplification is very, very important, which is why I try to eliminate from my mind the clutter and try to focus on the important things. And I think you must do that. Otherwise, particularly in this world of an incredible information flow, you've got to focus. Otherwise, you'll be overwhelmed with the information flow you're getting. Whether the information is true or false. So one of the things I've done over the years, and by the way, traveling tends to help you simplify, because if you're moving from one city to another, you can't carry too much baggage with you. You can't clutter your mind with too many things. You've got to be able to focus on what you're doing and where you're traveling to. So I would say traveling has been a big boon for me in that sense.
I would love to know where you get your energy from, sir.
I think it's probably the optimistic time frame that we have in this day and age. I love to be learning new things and being optimistic about them, and I think that helps a lot. And of course, you've got to have an exercise regime. Every morning I will get up. This morning, for example, in the hotel, I make sure there's a stationary bicycle, and I get up and get on that bicycle for half an hour. That's very, very important. The mind is related to the body. And of course, you've got to have a healthy body. I'm not saying I'm the healthiest person in the world, but I certainly try to keep my body active. That's very important.
Right. Wonderful. And Raamdeo, any thoughts? I mean, you went for Vipassana recently, I know. How do you keep yourself? Saurabh has spoken about spirituality in the book as well.
Yeah, I think Saurabh spoke very well of that having friends. I think that's a huge recipe for de-stressing, and having friends is having true friends. Where having a lot of acquaintances, because if you are in corporate world, in stock market, there are a lot of people around you, but they're not friends. The real friends are the friends you go for a walk every day. So we have a group of 6-7 guys. We go for breakfast to crazy places. For in one day we can go to, say, Hyderabad for breakfast. 6 guys get up in the morning at 6 o'clock, go for breakfast. Have something going around. I mean, you are never alone, and you get supported so much. And so because the markets can really test your, it can be quite stressing, and at times you are not able to think very clearly. Being with friends, they'll make jokes of you, and you'll be fine. So I think I find this friends thing very, very powerful. I mean, I always urge people to have good friends, good partners, so that you can share your trouble and you get some unusual suggestions from them, which can solve the problem just like that. So I find that to be very de-stressing. But Vipassana is very powerful. It's outstanding kind of thing. It is the Vipassana course itself is not that difficult. It is practicing at home every day, 2 hours. That's very tough. I'm not able to do it, but who can do it? I think they can achieve wonderful results.
Right. We've covered a lot of the audience questions as well. There is one underlying question which is kept coming up, and maybe I can throw it to Dr. Mobius and Raamdeo. There is a lot of global liquidity at this point in time, and most markets, US as well as India, some of them are close to their all-time highs, and US has obviously gone above their earlier high. So people are finding this disconnect between the underlying economy and markets. And this has been a common question asked by many people. How do you interpret this, Dr. Mobius?
Well, as you know, we're in a situation globally where the international currency, the US dollar, is now supplied at ever increasing amounts. And the central bank in America, and now following other banks around the world, are lowering interest rates to a point where we're talking about zero interest rates, or 1% for the US dollar or the euro. So we're in a very, very unusual situation where if you look at the reciprocal of the interest rate, price earnings ratios can be 100 or more. So the price earnings ratio is the normal traditional measure of value is out the window. So we have to start focusing on different measures, which is what we're seeing in the market generally. So we're in a very, very unusual time. As I said, I believe because of increases in productivity, we're going to be seeing deflationary aspects going globally. If you look at the normal measures of inflation, the CPI, they are really not meaningful. They really don't tell the full story of what's happening globally. So we're in a new era in many, many ways. And of course, even with COVID, we're going to find tremendous growth going forward, and of course, increasing money supply.
Right. And do you have any thoughts on gold, sir? Because a lot of people are saying negative interest rates globally. Should they hold gold and equities together?
Well, as you know, for the last 2 or 3 years, I've been recommending gold, at least 10% physical gold of a person's portfolio. And I still believe that is the case. You should have gold, because in an environment where the interest rates are zero or one, you must get your hands on assets, whether it be gold, whether it be silver, whether it be good stocks with assets. Whatever you have, you're going to find that assets are the key to stability and wealth, maintaining your wealth.
Right. Let me throw that question to Raamdeo ji as well. I mean, in your 35 years of investing, this kind of disconnect, have you found it anytime in the past? And how does one navigate through this?
No, so our wealth creation studies, which we do every year, after 2015, something has changed. I mean, now we are seeing the full picture, but after 2015, the conventional, you buy low P, it used to work, high P, the return used to be low. That thing is gone. Now it is the growth. If you buy growth at reasonable price, that's what is really working. And value is completely out of the window. And I don't know what will happen to the growth versus value conversation. You should definitely ask doctor about this. But I think what is working in tremendous way is the high quality growth. And because the P multiples can be anything, it can be justified. So I think one is giving disproportionate price. So in market, all the professional managers, they would like to put their own price, or they would do their own valuation, and that is actually not working. So you say 70p is very high, but I mean 100 is actually going to 120, but 10 is coming to 6. So this is the kind of problem which I think it must be the problem in US also, worldwide also. At least in India, it is very acute. So so clearly it is a very unusual time. But I think our framework of QGLP, I mean, I have seen it works wonderfully well. The problem is not with the thought process. The problem is with the execution of it. Somebody today morning said that any knowledge or philosophy is the tip of the iceberg. The rest all, 99%, is in the execution. So I think we all have tremendous amount of knowledge about what works for us. The issue is, can we remain disciplined and execute according to that?
Right. Saurabh, any final thoughts or questions to Raamdeo ji or Dr. Mobius?
No, I think the enduring sort of memory I'll carry of this memorable 75 minutes is of two titans of investing who are still so enthusiastic, revved up, and willing to share their wisdom. Right, just 75 minutes. I could sit here and listen to them for hours. Both of their time is really precious. But this willingness to share wisdom, I've always believed marks out marks out, truly successful people in any profession from the rest of the also runs. So thank you very much, Mark. Thank you very much, Raamdeo ji. Thank you for the learning and thank you for the help.
Thank you. It was a pleasure.
Yeah, no, so it's been a really wonderful session. I mean, I have definitely learned a lot, and I'm sure all the people who have logged in, whether it's the Penguin readers, Motilal Oswal clients and prospects, or the Marcellus guests, I'm sure they have learned a lot today. And it's so wonderful that we did it on Teachers' Day. Today is September 5th, Teachers' Day in India, Dr. Mobius. So it's really great to have two investment masters teaching and sharing their knowledge in such an amazing manner. So thanks a lot, Anupam and Saurabh. And just a final word to everybody that if you want to know about the steps to outsize success, please buy the Victory Project book. It's all there. Anupam is showing it on the video. So thank you very much for everybody.
Thank you.
I
Thank you.
started reading the book and I found it to be very, very interesting. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Mobius.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.